We're around the right side of the motorcycle now, so this is the cover that covers the battery right here. This is powder coated black, but yours will be chrome. So anyway, let me go ahead and show you how to take that off there. Basically, you just take your key, turn it, and pull that cover off, and take that off. Okay, the next step, we want to go ahead and remove the battery by taking these screws out. There's a screw at the top here, and then there's two screws down at the bottom that holds this bracket on. One right here and one right here. So go ahead and remove those screws, and then this black plate should just pop right off here. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we've exposed the battery here. Go ahead and take your positive lead off. Do the same thing you did on the other side, and make sure you screw the screw back in to hold that little insert in there. And then let's go ahead and slip the battery out. And then what I like to do is I always like to put the screws back in the where they came out. Just put them in loosely. That way you won't lose them, and then they kind of stay in the right spot. So do that, and then we'll continue on. This is just for your information when you're working on your bike here. If you slide the floor jack under the brace here that holds the exhaust pipe on, their exhaust is removed on this, so you can see how that goes under there. But if you jack the bike up just a little bit, you can actually jack it up to where the wheel will turn. And that way you can go ahead and just get the tension off the tire for removing the tire, whatever you want to do there. And later on when you take the shocks off and stuff. So anyway, just a little tidbit of information there. So we'll be back. Okay, the first thing we want to do is remove the seat. It's real simple on this bike. If this is looking under the rider's seat here, basically you've got two bolts. You've got this one right here and then this one right here. So anyway, this one is the one that we want to take out. So remove that on both sides. And then we'll be right back, and we'll lift that off and show you how to get the little passenger seat off. The next step is let's go ahead and remove the passenger seat. It's real simple also. You see this little bolt right here. You just unscrew it. I've loosened that ahead of time. And then go ahead and take that little seat off there. And then while that's off, let's go ahead and disconnect our wires. So if you'll notice, there's two larger connectors, a black one and a white one right here. Go ahead and lift these clips up, and then let's go ahead and you push on that little tab and then undo those. I undid those earlier just to make it easier, but anyway, let's undo those wires. And then there's another wire that goes back to the back here. What you'll have to do is, there's a little keeper too on this heat sink, so you'll go ahead and loosen that so you can get this wire up and loose. And then let's go ahead and disconnect all these connectors in the back too. There's this one that was plugged in like that. Let's go ahead and pull that one out. And then these two smaller connectors, let's disconnect those. And then we'll go on to the next step. The next step, before we remove the fender, we're going to have to disconnect the rear signal lights. So anyway, if you look at this chrome housing right here, there's a wire that comes out, and this is the wire up here. So there's one of those on each side. Just go ahead and unplug those first. There's one on each side. Just go ahead and unplug those, and then we'll be ready to take the fender off. We have one more item that we need to disconnect before we remove the fender, so I'll go ahead and zoom in on it here. Okay, if you see this down in here, you got the two wires coming out here, and then there's two big wires connected here with these lugs. So anyway, if you follow these wires, the smaller wires over, there are two connectors. This one and this one. So anyway, go ahead and disconnect those. And then what we want to do is we want to disconnect these from the big lugs down in here. These. Go ahead and disconnect those. Now, before you do that though, we've got to disconnect your battery. So make sure you disconnect the battery before you start this, because these are live wires down there. They're not insulated, so it's important to disconnect the wires or the battery before you start this. So go ahead and disconnect the battery, and let's get those off there. And then I'll come back and show you. And then there's one last little bit of wiring we need to disconnect. There's a lot of wires on these bikes. So anyway, it's these two connectors down here. Go ahead and very carefully just kind of twist those, grab them with a pair of pliers and kind of twist them and pull them off. Be careful not to have the pliers slip off and hit the wires. You might damage them. And then also this connector here comes out of the bottom of that solenoid. This one will have to be disconnected also. You'll see the wire going down to the solenoid down there. So go ahead and disconnect that one, and then we'll be right back. Okay, make one last check and make sure that the solenoid down there doesn't have any wires coming from the frame over to it, and then make sure it looks like all the wires will clear when you lower the fender down, because this fender is really heavy, and if a wire catches when you lower it down, it could break it. So anyway, double check all that, and then we're going to go ahead. It's a bummer, but we're going to have to go ahead and pull the rear wheel on this bike, so I'll leave it up to you on that. Go ahead and pull that off. Make sure the bike is jacked up well, and I'll show you the bolts that we have to loosen up and remove to take the fender off. We'll be right back. Okay, I've gone ahead and taken the rear wheel out. Let's see now. This is looking underneath the fender. There's 4 bolts that you'll have to take out. There's these 2 right here. One there and one there. And then further down toward the bottom of the bike, there's one there. I took it out. There was one there and one there. So anyway, remove those 4 bolts, and then go ahead and be careful, because as you take the last one out, this fender will want to drop, and it's pretty hefty. So go ahead and take those out, and we'll take that rear fender off. We'll be back. I forgot to do this myself, so I thought I'd just better tell you that if you want to take the rear foot pegs off, which I will do on this bike because I think they look terrible on there. You don't need them anymore. So you may want to pop those off before you put your wheel on, because on the inside of this one, you can't get to the Allen bolt on the inside. So go ahead and pop those off if you want, and then we'll be back.